Fight fans, welcome to the Zapata Brand Boxing Podcast, brought to you by Ringside. Go to ringside.com/podcast, and you too can get upwards of 40% off selected brands. Well, my next guest is now becoming a usual on the Zapata Brand Podcast, and it's great to have him on. Percy Crawford from Zenger News joins us. Percy, how are you?
Hey, what's up, George? It's good to be a regular, man. I love being on the show, so I appreciate you always welcoming me with open arms, brother.
Oh, I've followed you for a long time. I've told you that since I tried to get you on a while ago when I first started, and it was good that my brother could connect with you and we can get this together. And believe me, I enjoy it. And last time we spoke, it was before the Undisputed Championship. We both had Tyson Fury winning. As far as our picks, how did the fight play out when you first saw it and looked at your initial impressions of how the fight played out as to what you initially picked?
Somewhat what I expected. I thought when Fury came forward and used his boxing ability and his size, he did very well. For whatever reason, I mean, he's 35 years old. He had 3 rough fights with Deontay Wilder. He was dropped by Francis Ngannou. Maybe those things caught up to him where he couldn't sustain that, because it looks like to me at times he was kind of pacing himself. I thought if he fought the fight he was fighting when he had success, he could have done that all night long. It would have been relatively easy. For whatever reason, he chose to fight off the ropes a lot, fight off the back foot a lot. He actually went to the ropes damn near as soon as the fight started, which I found peculiar against such a small guy. But I told you, man, the way my pick's been going, pick opposite of me. So I hope I won some people some money.
I said the same thing. But let me ask you, there's a couple people that have been saying the same thing to me. The fights with Deontay Wilder, did you feel that those are starting to take its toll now as we're going? Now he's a little bit away from it. Do you think that's what's going on here? Or his antics that are really all over the place. The one thing you brought up immediately, I brought it up on when I was why would you go to the ropes and even in the corners a couple times? Do you think it's the fights with Wilder starting to catch up with him, his age, or just the technique that he's using, the tactics he's using, where he's getting cornered and then he's playing with the crowd and everything else? Where do you see, is it a combination of that, or do you see it's starting to become the fights?
I think it's a lot of things, and you touched on a lot of them. I think the 3 fights with Wilder did a number on both fighters, and we'll see Wilder on June 1st and, maybe even expound on that a little bit. I think the lifestyle Tyson Fury lived for a long time is starting to catch up. I think his reflexes are slowing down, so the antics would probably have to at least be a minimum, and he's still trying to do a lot of it. I noticed he don't get his hands back as quick, and that's a reflex thing. He's 35 years old, and I honestly think if the money wasn't so big right now, Tyson Fury may actually be retired. I think it's just too much to turn down, too much to pass up. We're seeing the guy at the end of his rope. And not taking anything away from Alexander Usyk at all, but a guy that small shouldn't hurt Fury that badly.
Well, when you get hit by Wilder, he was literally almost cold, and then get up. He was knocked down a bunch of times in those fights, the trilogy, and then get knocked. Now it was a good shot, but he wasn't a big guy. That concerned me. One, but the way he was getting knocked around, the way he was going from one side of the corner to the other side of the corner. That's kind of a guy who might be, you're right, losing his legs, because that's the first thing to go is your legs. And I think you're right. But your scorecard. I had Usyk winning the first 2, and then I think Tyson swept from 3 to 8. Did you have it similarly that way?
Very similar. I see such weird, I don't even want to call it scoring on social media. As guys just kind of giving their post-fight input. You don't take one round, and Tank actually alluded to something similar on Twitter or X. But you don't take one round and score the whole entire fight off that one round. Alexander Usyk had a hell of a round. And I thought the referee actually did a great job of not stopping that fight.
Yeah.
You give a guy like Fury the benefit of the doubt. But you don't score a fight off one round. It's each individual round. And Tyson Fury was sweeping several rounds. And I thought Usyk at times was trying to catch his second win. And Fury let him off the hook a little bit. So I did have the fight score similar to what you had it. I thought the 10-8 round was amazing, and eventually that's what got him the fight. Otherwise, I think it would have been a draw.
I had it 115, 112 for Usyk. The fight, the knockdown did play a huge part in it. You're 100% right about the knockdown. I think the ref did a great job where I heard people saying, "Oh, that was a knockdown. He would have been out." No, the ropes held him up. You got to call that. It's like Evander Holyfield, Burt Cooper, down in Atlanta. The ropes held him up. They called it a knockdown, and that was his first ever knockdown. But you're right. You're right on the money there. And overall, it was a good fight. I thought it was just a good fight. Although Tyson just swept the middle rounds, good fight. I mean, did you think it was as exciting as most people thought?
Yeah, I thought it lived up to it, and unfortunately, Joy, I don't know if a lot of these newer boxing fans understands what a standing 8 count is. I saw people saying like the ref saved him. It's like no, that's a standing 8 count. I thought the fight lived up to the billing. I thought both guys showed a ton of heart. Usyk is something to deal with, man. Being a smaller guy, kind of, I wouldn't say crafty, but southpaw, walks forward against bigger guys, so he brings a lot to the table. I thought the fight was excellent. As always, as a boxing fan, I thought it had its fair share of drama, which I love, and it was a good fight.
His footwork was tremendous, and I didn't know if that was going to be such a big factor because I thought Tyson Fury would be able to cut off the ring. He didn't. He actually went back to the ropes. I have no idea why he did that. That was a very wrong tactical move for him. I don't know who told him that, but it was bad, and he couldn't get his jab going.
And George, if you notice, he escaped out to his right each and every time. So Tyson Fury was going to his right, essentially Usyk's left, which is his power hand, and eventually got clocked with an overhand left. He did a lot of tactical things that perhaps he got away with early in his career. I see the reflexes. I see the things that happen to fighters that are aging. I see all of that in Fury. Even the shot Ngannou hit him with, I'm not saying Ngannou's not a powerful guy, but how didn't you see it coming from him out? It was so slow. And I just think that's part of what we're going to see from Tyson Fury if he decides to continue.
And I mean, now that we have an undisputed champion, allegedly, because evidently the IBF is going to strip Usyk, which this is why boxing is as crazy as it is. There is nobody better in that heavyweight division right now than Alexander Usyk, and they're going to strip him from the undisputed championship. It fractures everything. Should Hrgovic get a shot? Absolutely. But what a bigger fight to make than Usyk and somebody else right now. Hrgovic just doesn't sell the tickets. He just doesn't. He's not well known. But I think he deserves a shot. I give him that. Where do you think Usyk goes from here?
That's the problem. I think Usyk benefited from having great timing. Again, I'm not taking anything away from Usyk, but he had great timing. I think his timing when he fought Anthony Joshua was amazing. I thought his timing for fighting Tyson Fury was amazing. The problem with having great timing is now those guys are on the other side of it. Who do you fight moving forward? I think I mentioned it on the last show. I think Jared Anderson is a guy that seems to be regressing. Hrgovic doesn't sell tickets. Dubois, I don't know where you go. Crazy thing is if Deontay Wilder can look good June 1st, that's probably the route you go in terms of big money fight.
I thought that.
So, I mean, he's in a tough spot because I don't care what the IBF does. He's the undisputed heavyweight champion. He really kind of then timed out the dance partners. I mean, he's beat Fury. He's beat AJ twice. AJ's on a hot streak, but do we really want a trilogy? I don't know.
Not if he got beat that bad in the second fight. That wasn't exciting. And I probably would sell because AJ just sells tickets. But let me ask you, is this similar to, the only difference here is because Holyfield had a dance partner. Holyfield goes to cruiserweight, dominates there. Usyk does the same. Moves up to heavyweight, smaller guy, does well against people that are kind of faded. Buster Douglas was faded. Larry Holmes. And then fights Foreman. Then he fights Bo, and Bo is a guy who was streaking at the time, and Bo was a tremendous fighter. I mean, I don't think he gets enough credit of how good he was for a big guy. It's similar to that, other than the fact that he doesn't have one. I don't know if Jared Anderson was, but I go with you. Deontay Wilder would be an exciting fight with him because he doesn't bang as hard as Usyk doesn't bang as hard as Tyson, and he's not as big. So I do think that would be a better matchup. But what about Zhang? That guy can sell tickets.
I was gonna say if Zhang can somehow pull, I think this, George, whoever wins on June 1st, if they can look spectacular doing it, it can't be a snoozer. It can't be both guys playing it safe because they both know each guy can punch. If they can win in dramatic or exciting fashion, I think either one of those guys against Usyk could sell. And I think they're money fights. Unfortunately, after that, and I'm going way past the landscape of where we should be going, but that's when he's going to come into a little bit of a, he's going to fight some probably high risk, low reward type guys.
Which hurts at the end of the day. It just hurts boxing. We just got to this, epic point right here. One undisputed champion. I think it kind of hurts a little bit. One last point on the Saudi Arabia card. Okay. I don't know your opinion on this. I don't think I've talked to you about this. These cards are brutally long, and it's going to turn people off. I thought PBC did it well with Amazon. It moved along very fast, and I think UFC does it the best. If you were to talk to Turki Al-Sheikh, what would you say as far as the production? Because PBV.com and DAZN, they don't have any say in that. What would you say to him?
I agree 100%. I was watching with my son, and I think we started watching at noon, and Usyk and Fury was coming to the ring at 5 p.m. I mean, it's an entire day, and unfortunately for diehards like me, you got me. I've revolved my entire day around it. But with events like this, you're catering more to the casual fan who's just not going to sit through 5-6 hours of boxing. I don't know. For one, I think the fight is either sold or not sold by that point. So the 30-40 minute promos, I can do without those. Once a fight ends, let's start bringing the others in, especially when you know that you have multiple national anthems to do. And it's just so much that goes on before the fist starts flying. I think you can shorten that. And honestly, man, you may have to go to a 5-bout type of card, but the all-day thing is brutal. I revolve my day around it. I don't expect many other people to do that, though.
Then they had the rap show before. It's just not a good look. It's just not a good look. I mean, my kid likes that, but I'm like, okay, but you got to kind of move along. The best people who did it in the day was HBO. They did a small trailer. They gave a little small trailer, and then they got you to fight. And they only had a couple fights on. That was it. You knew what you were getting. But if they're going to have the interest, and then you got over 20 million people stealing the show.
Yeah.
You got to improve. The production's got to be better, or are they going to turn people off? Because I was going to get turned off at some point. Yeah, the national anthems, the rap show, get the guys in the ring, let them fight, because that's what you're going to sell. Sell the product, not the stuff around it, not the little the catering stuff around it. Sell the product, sell the steak.
Yes, they're still trying to sell an event and not a boxing match, and I understand that, but boxing fans have very short attention spans. And I mean, I had to ask my son who the kid was. I was excited on that type of stage, but at the end of the day, I was like, get them to the ring, because I'm not a guy that's just going to tune in for the co-main and the main. I'm not a guy that's just going to tune in for the main event. I do want to support the entire card, but man, they don't make it easy.
No, and that was the one big drawback I had about it. And well, we'll see when he comes June 3rd. Or is it August 3rd or June 3rd? Is it June 3rd?
August 3rd.
August 3rd for the Crawford fight, and that's in LA. So let's see how it handles it. That is not going to fly there, not because of the East Coast. There's no possible way that flies. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt before we go in. This weekend, though, big fight coming up, rematch. Josh Taylor, Jack Catterall. First fight, this is the rematch. First fight, I think Josh Taylor got a little bit of a gift here. So let's see if this is the real. These guys do not like each other, period. Let me ask you, is Josh Taylor getting a little long in the tooth?
I think Josh Taylor is a guy that probably sucked down the 135 a little bit too long. And now he's fighting closer to his natural weight, and the damage is already done. I think we're seeing a little bit of that with Devin Haney. I think we're seeing it with Josh Taylor. I think we see it with a lot of these guys that just stuck around those low weight classes. I used to look at Josh Taylor at some weigh-ins and just think there's no way. Why keep doing this to yourself? I remember before the Teofimo Lopez fight, him and Bud Crawford had an interaction, and Bud was like, dude, you're huge. Like, what are you doing at 135? So I think he's long in the tooth in the sense of amount of fights, but I think also the damage he's done to his body making 135 for so long is starting to rear its ugly head.
Now, does Catterall have the skill to pull it off? Like, I'm going to say again, pull it off again, where he does enough to win this time, way more convincing, or does he stop him?
Man, this fight has been postponed so many times, and
Right.
I don't think either guys look the same since the first fight. Given the fact that I thought Catterall did more than enough to get the decision the first time and he didn't, I think he would have to do something very extraordinary to get a decision. But at the same time, I think Taylor looks ripe for the pickings. I'm not, downgrading what Teofimo Lopez is as a fighter, but Taylor offered nothing in that fight. So if Catterall is going to do it, now is the time. I just think he can't play it to the judges. He has to fight as if he's trying to finish. And if it goes the distance, just hope the judges get it right.
Okay, so your overall pick on this, are you kind of 50-50, or are you?
I think it's a pick 'em fight. I would lean Catterall only because I was so disappointed in Josh Taylor's performance against Teofimo Lopez. He looks like a guy that honestly reigns supreme at 135 and probably is a middle of the pack kind of guy at 140. I would slightly lean Catterall. I'll go split decision. Something close. I don't see the guy getting stopped again. Somebody probably get knocked out in the third round since I said that. So
that's I'll take Josh then. Josh,
okay,
I'll take
Josh Taylor just to mix things up because I've been terrible. Even when I get it right, George, like my prediction is so off. Like I think I picked Lomo by split decision because it was in Australia, and of course he stops him. So even when I get it right, I get it wrong.
Well, certainly FanDuel would love you. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, today or yesterday, the 22nd, the second lab results of Ryan Garcia. It seems every week he's in news, something controversy or some nonsense. But the B sample comes back, and as expected, it came back positive for Osterine. Now, the only thing I will say is this: when they first said Nanodrol, that is something that is injected. I said, if you test positive for that, you knew that was going in your body. Yes. Don't tell me B12. Don't tell me any of that. That goes into your body injected. But when they said it wasn't, and they said it came back as Osterine, B level, and then it came back sample B, came back positive, I'm starting to think a tainted contamination. The only reason why, now he's still guilty. It was in his body, depending on the suspension. There's been more tainted substances with these kind of SARMs because they mix and match. They don't even clean the thing. They put it in. So you get a little bit. And the amounts that were in there. What is your feeling initially? And is this going to taint his legacy going forward?
Here's the saga of Ryan Garcia, and here's the problem I have with it. I think Ryan's antics is going to hurt him in this sense. And he tried to delete them, but I saw, obviously, you can't really delete anything that you've it's like shooting a gun, once you shoot that bullet out, you can't get it back. I love steroids. He tweeted that, and
Jesus.
Yeah, he tweeted some things he tried to delete as of the 22nd. Ashwagandha mixed with steroids and all these things he was saying, and now it's like you can't do things like that, but now you want us to believe you. Mm-hmm. I'm riding the same wave you're riding, as it could easily be contaminated supplements. I also think it could easily be Ryan Garcia looking for an edge. I mean, he doesn't give you anything to lead you to believe that he wouldn't. He came out and said he intentionally missed weight by 3 pounds. He kind of played to the crowd of the whole steroid things. He even did an interview where he said, well, I know the B sample is going to be, dirty because it's a conspiracy. So is it a conspiracy, or is it you're getting your hair tested because it's, cross-contamination with supplements? He leaves so much to be desired. I wish he had a amazing publicist to kind of guide him through this. They're letting him freelance this thing and freestyle this thing. And I think, as crazy as it sounds, his antics will hurt him more than the actual positive test, because you can't grab that rock back once you throw it, man. And he put a lot out. A long time ago, I stopped caring about the titles and I just want to hurt Devin. But when you say things like that and you miss weight and you test positive for PEDs, it can easily come back to bite you. So, look, it's in the system. However it got there, I think the main thing people have to focus on when you're caught cheating or test positive it's not so much the positive test, it's the intent. And his words just align with bad intent. And I hate that I hate that we're talking about this for a fight that actually lived up to the billing.
Right. And let me ask you, have you seen Devin Haney lately? Have you seen his interviews?
I've seen some of his interviews. I've seen more of his tweets and what he's saying about, the B sample testing positive.
Let me ask you, he didn't look the same. For some reason, he just his even his energy is a little different. Would that concern you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
A lot of concern for Devin Haney. For one, I'm gonna sound like a kid. I hate saying this word, but his swag is definitely off.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Confident kid you saw.
Yeah.
Two, you don't just recover from a beating like that because a guy tested positive and is probably gonna face some kind of sanctions. The fight still happened and the damage is done. Mm-hmm. Lastly, if I'm a trainer of any guy fighting Devin Haney, I say you run across the ring and you show. He has to show me he can fight off the back foot. So much was exposed.
Yeah.
Even if this loss gets taken off his record, so much was exposed. I think his dad is almost like losing his mind a little bit. He's doing some crazy marketing things. But beyond the trainer, I see a damaged kid. I see a kid that's not the same guy. I mean, he came out on ESPN and said, I just was, astonished that somebody was that much better than me and so many levels better than me to keep hurting me like that. You don't forget those things, even with a positive test.
The other thing is I would encourage him not to say that publicly because it's going to come back and haunt you. Because then you're giving the opponent a little bit of an advantage. Say, hey, if I could break his will a little bit, not to say his will was broken in the ring, because he did perform very well. I give him a lot of credit. He had a lot of heart. But that afterward, his energy, like you said, swag, that was gone. That's what I was talking about. He didn't seem he had that, hey, man, I lost. I'm going to get it back. Whatever. It didn't even seem like he wanted it back.
No, and even if your thought is, I'll never fight a guy that intentionally cheated to beat me, there's a way to go about that. There's a way to say it. Oscar De La Hoya didn't have to say, I'll never fight Fernando Vargas again. Everything after the fight led you to believe that he was past that. And, that was a chapter in his life that was closed. Devin Haney gives the impression that it bothers him so much. Like, I don't want to fight him again, but it bothers me. And even him, kind of hinting or alluding to the fact that it can, this makes me want to do something to him beyond boxing. Y'all are fighters, man. Like, he cheated. It sucks. Whether it played a part in the damage you took in that fight or not, I understand. Like, if somebody cheated on me, I would be, angry about it too. I just don't see that same bravado, that same confidence, that same swagger that he had leading up to the fight where he said Ryan's a B-level fighter or a C-level fighter. That's gone.
Yeah, he just didn't look the same. And that the ESPN interview that you're alluding to, he didn't look the same. It was the first impression that I got. I said, there's something definitely mentally that's playing with him. He almost didn't feel comfortable. And that told me a lot. That told me a lot. That, going to the next fight, one, I don't think he'll fight a puncher. Two, I think he's going to fight someone on a definitely a lower level than him.
That can be dangerous. That can be dangerous because I always point, and I can't remember this guy's name, but if you remember when Felix Trinidad did the number on Fernando Vargas that he did, Vargas fought his next fight on HBO, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he put Vargas down. Now, Vargas got up and stopped him, but it just showed you the damage. A guy that probably shouldn't even been in a ring with Vargas put him down with a good shot. It wasn't a flash knockdown. He hurt Vargas. Does Haney want to go down that route? So I guess the way I'm looking at it is, it would look better to lose to Gervonta Davis right now than to look subpar against a guy who probably doesn't even belong on your level. So he's in a tricky spot, man, and I don't envy the position he's in right now. It sucks that Ryan Garcia tested positive because it does taint so much revolved around that fight.
And couldn't be a better segue than our next topic that we're going to talk about here. The fight that I'm looking forward to the most this summer, only because I want to see where this guy's at. June 15th, Tank Davis against Frank Martin. This, although I do believe this will be a knockout by Tank, I want to see where Tank goes with this. Now, you've known Tank from when you were covering Floyd back in the day. when you saw him as that young kid coming up, did you say superstar?
I'll be honest, I didn't see superstar on him. I thought he was a dynamic fighter. I never thought he would be called the face of boxing. I never thought he'd be the money guy in boxing because he's there now. Tank can pretty much sell out anywhere. And when I met Tank, he was still kind of like a chubby kid, So it's so great to see the maturation because he walks around in shape now. He doesn't blow up in weight. I think he's given up alcohol and all those things he had going against him, and he takes the sport serious. And I hear it's so funny to see the dynamics of Tank because if you watch him on X, man, when he's not being super serious, Tank is actually a funny guy, and he's starting to show a little more layers of who he is as a person, as a fighter. But I didn't see superstar. I thought dynamic puncher, amazing finisher, but he's branded himself great, man. And Tank is that guy right now in boxing, especially with Canelo kind of, you can see the end is near for Canelo. Tank is starting to become that guy. And when you got Canelo, who is the guy in boxing, saying Tank is his favorite fighter, that definitely doesn't hurt.
Yeah, the thing about Tank is weird. When you see interviews with him where he's serious and he's talking to the media, it almost seems like he's got a decent heart. He has, whatever. Then you see stuff on the outside, the women stuff, the domestic issues, and they're like, man, who is this guy? Is he this guy or is he that guy? Do you think because he was so young and pushed so like Carmel Moten is right now, he's really getting, but Carmel seems to have somewhat of structure. I don't know if his dad is in the picture at all, but Tank didn't seem like he had that in his, and I know he didn't have a dad in his life, but he seemed to go from one way to another where you say, this guy's a likable guy. He seems to talk, but then, and you were around him a lot with the media, he would switch to a person who's always got domestic issues, never drug issues, stuff like, but doing dumb stuff outside of the ring. Is that something that you fear could happen when I guess he's getting even a bigger deal now coming in from Amazon that could turn him a certain way where this guy had all this talent, all this stuff given to him, and he just didn't capitalize?
Well, the thing with Tank, with just in boxing in general, is Tank will be 30 soon. So I hate to say time is ticking on the 30-year-old, but this is the fight game. And 30 years old isn't looked at as young in boxing. So I think he has a small window to capitalize on all this fame and success. And I think he's starting to realize that. I'm not going to delve too much into the personal side because I've never really spent that much time around him. But I do think you see little pockets of maturation. You do see him talk with a little more maturity. I remember when, he knocked out Leo Santa Cruz and, he paid a little homage to Leo Santa Cruz's dad who was battling cancer or whatever. And I started seeing it then, like him speak a little more maturely. I think so many of these young guys just have so much handed to them, man. You're always going to get those one-offs. Those, like I say, weird domestic case and, him, unfortunately, the car accident he had and things like that. They're given a lot at a very young age. In the sense of boxing, I do think Tank has found some sense of balance because he is street guy. Like you'll get the street guy in the press conference and then you'll get the funny guy. And he's starting to learn you don't always got to be this serious. We know you knock people out for a living and you're amazing at it, but you don't always have to be that. I think he is somewhat finding that balance. Hopefully he's finding in his personal life too, because I'm starting to see it a little more on social media, him being a little more fan friendly, him joking a little more, and that's good to see.
Yeah. So his opponent, Frank Martin, resume not tremendous. Mm-hmm. He has all the skills. It looks like he's athletic. He gets this shot because he's with PBC. Let's be honest. I think he was going to fight Shakur, but then he realized, I might get more money even if I get knocked out by Tank. Jumps over there, lines up this fight. This is his opportunity. There, if he beats him, he springboards himself into the stratosphere, which I don't know if it could happen. What do you take with Frank Martin?
Well, Frank Martin is a guy I've known from very early in his career because of my relationship with Derek James, and I remember being around Errol and those guys, and Frank was around. The beauty for Frank Martin is he stays in tremendous shape, so that's the positive. I don't know if he has enough experience. I kind of view Frank Martin, and I'll probably get killed for saying this, but I'm comparing them the fighter, but I view Frank Martin like I view Rolly. Being
Oh
that Frank
yeah,
Martin, I think, has 14 fights. I think Rolly had 12 fights when he fought Tank. And although Rolly did well, you just was waiting for him to make an inexperienced mistake. He did. He launched like 3 right hands. He gets hit with an uppercut, fight's over. Tank has become great at waiting for guys to make a mistake. And I think that's why his output is so low. Tank has the lowest output in boxing, if I'm not mistaken, because he's turned into a sniper. He waits for you to make a mistake. He's not wasting any bullets. And then he launches his, and the fight usually is over. Frank Martin can't get antsy. He can't get excited. Honestly, he could take something for what Usyk did against Fury. I thought Fury left a lot of openings, and it's like, Usyk, let your hands go. But he was being patient and calculated because Fury was trying to set up that counter right uppercut. Right. I think Martin has to be Usyk-like in a sense of Tank's going to give you things, but it's probably him setting a trap as opposed to you having heard or your pressure's getting to him. I didn't like the way Frank Martin looked in his last fight, and my prediction will probably lean more towards what I saw from him last, which sucks because I'm sure he's taking this fight super serious. I'm sure he's in the best shape of his life. But, man, I can't erase the thought of his last fight where he just looked very subpar. And I told a lot of people to watch him that night. So I think I'm a little bit over that. They was like, this the dude you was talking about? So,
well, yeah. I did the same thing. I thought, okay, this is going to be the fight because I thought Frank would end up fighting Shakur.
Yes.
I thought he had a better chance fighting Shakur than he did with Tank. I thought that was out of the picture. I didn't know that he was, positioning himself for that. And when I saw it, I said the same thing. I said, no way. If you're going to fight Tank, this is not the performance you want to come off. But I think he's going to kind of, not saying he's going to cash out, but he started late. You're right. I think your comparison with Rolly is perfect because he did start late. The only thing is he doesn't have the punch that Rolly has.
Yes.
And it scares me when you're not going to keep that guy off you. I think Tank walks through him. And I know I know your relationship with Derek and that team, but maybe this is a tactical move by them saying, hey, we said we want to do something over here. And Frank Martin is a different kind of guy. I think boxing is something that he's doing now. I think there's other stuff for Frank Martin. Good looking dude, in good shape, seems to have his faculties together, seems to have his life in order.
Mm-hmm.
I think boxing is a short-lived. Do you get that impression or no?
Yeah, look, I'm a realist. I definitely have my relationships with who I have them with, but I'm a realist, and I just can't see any scenario, not one, where Frank Martin could lead with his hand raised. I will say this though. I think Tank is a guy that's starting to read his own newspaper clippings. That could play to Frank Martin's, that could play to his hands a little bit in the sense of Tank seems almost arrogantly confident that he's just going to walk through Frank Martin. So that could be something Frank Martin could use as bulletin board material. I mean, Tank is almost being dismissive of Frank Martin, and I think that can be dangerous. I don't think Frank Martin's this world beater right now, but I think to overlook him could be dangerous. I do think, I don't want to say boxing is a pass-through because it's such a dangerous sport, but I understand what you're saying with there's something on the other side for him. And why wait? Why wait, I guess is the temperament they have. One thing I hate to do, and I've been doing it for the Frank Martin, Gervonta Davis build-up, I hate being a body language expert. Like, you see fans say he looks nervous, and I did see a little bit of something when Tank just rolled right up on him on stage. And even Tank said, like, oh, you thought I was going to come up there and be friendly and shake hands. That's what I took from it, too. Like, Frank Martin was almost caught off guard. And it just lets me know the moment may be too big. Like, you got to know what you're dealing with a Gervonta Davis guy. And he had like an old crap moment when Tank rolled right up on him. And I said then, not good. Not good. You can't show a guy like Tank fear.
No. So obviously you said there's no chance that you see Frank Martin winning. So I'm going to mark down that Frank Martin's going to win, and I'll put my bet in.
Mark early too. Like he'll put Tank in like the second round
stoppage for Frank Martin out of nowhere.
Yes.
Approved by Percy Crawford.
Man, look, I got to turn this thing around at some point. Maybe Tank will do it for me.
You know what? If there was a fight that it could happen, the body language thing that I didn't even think about that until you. Well, I did, but I didn't want to bring it up. And when you said that, because there was a fight that I saw in UFC, Alex Pereira against Jamal Hill. And I saw it in the back of the locker room. He's asking Pereira for an autograph, and Pereira's looking at him like, I said, told Kevin Iola, I said, he's getting knocked out. There's no way you go up to a guy and ask him for an autograph. I don't care if it's honorable against mixed. He's looking to kill you. When I saw that, I said, he is getting knocked out and getting knocked out early. Sure enough, that wasn't even close.
I'll piggyback on what you're saying, and I'll expound on that. The same fight. Now, they had all this bad blood, and, I'm going to knock you out, I'll knock you out. And then they face-to-face, and they're getting instructions from the official. And Jamal Hill tried twice to touch gloves.
Oops.
And Kiara almost was like, dude, let's wait till the ref said to do it. And that's a red flag to me. I always say, I don't want to see fighters try to make friends in the ring. Now, after the fight, go have a beer, do whatever. I just saw Jamal Hill trying to be friends too much, and I didn't care for that either.
And that is I tell my fighters at all time, don't be looking to see him before the fight. Don't do that. Because it was taught to me real early. I remember my first amateur fight ever. I was like, hey, who am I fighting? And I'm like looking around. I'm like, hey, good. And the guy did not even want to talk to me. He said, get the hell away from me. I don't want to talk to you. I'm thinking, wow, these people are nasty around here. Well, yeah, it is. And you don't realize that plays with your mind. And when you said that, I said, yeah, it's the first thing I thought of when I saw that, but I didn't want to say it.
It was so weird. And I kind of cringe sometimes when I see fans say, like, oh, you can see it in his eyes. But when Tank rolled up on him, you could see he had that, oh, this is real moment. And if it was real at the press conference in street clothes, I can only imagine when you get those final instructions, it's going to be super real.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think you hit it right on the head saying that this is going to be a big event for Frank Martin. Your first big event against someone like Tank, probably one of the top pound-for-pound fighters who could bang a little bit. Probably not the one you want to be in. But, hey, sometimes you got to dare to be great. And if they're going by your pick, I'm going to win a lot of money this week.
You're going to win a lot of money. And, look, here's the thing, man. You just hit the nail on the head. Daring to be great. I will never criticize a fighter for taking a fight like this. So, kudos to Frank Martin. I know, we're having a little fun with it, but kudos to him for taking a fight like this with only 12, 13, 14 fights. Because if he pulls it off, he can make all of us look crazy.
Right. And I look at that fight similar to like Mikey Garcia when he fought Errol Spence. Everyone was like, no way. He's 135, 140 pounder. But he said, if I can beat him, it puts me up a little bit low. And he was looking, at that point, he was looking to cash grab there. But he took the shot there again when Errol Spence was considered the top pound for pound guy.
Absolutely. So that'd be great. And we can't say like, oh, these guys avoid each other and duck each other. And then when a kid like Frank Martin step up, say, oh, he's crazy, I wouldn't have fought Tank. No, man, go fight him. Go try to be great. And if you come up short, that's fine. Just fight. I don't want the Jermell Charlo Canelo thing. Just fight. Go out on your shield or however you got to do it. Just, man, sometimes you could put up effort. I'll give an example. Usyk Cruz, to me, got more popular losing to Tank than any of his wins.
Yeah.
Because of the way he fought Tank. So there's a silver lining here for Frank Martin. He just has to navigate it.
And hopefully it's a good fight. We're hoping that it is. And this whole summer is going to be action-packed. I mean, I got the June 9th, I'm going to the Boxing Hall of Fame. A couple of my guys are going. Are you going to the Hall of Fame?
No, I don't have any plans to get out there. I don't have any. I need to get out.
It's a great time. This will be my first time there, but everyone who goes there says a great time, and all the fighters are just fan friendly when they're outside of that realm. Maybe not as much when you're in there and they're cutting weight, but they're very accessible. And even the publicists and everybody, they kind of get you to where you got to be, will get you what you need. They've been great to me, and I'm sure you've had the same experience.
I've never met a fighter that was unruly, man. Like you said, most of them are very gracious. I think they understand this is a niche sport. Mm-hmm. And honestly, outside of the fight world, they can probably walk in the Mall of America and not a whole lot of people will recognize them because they're not, an NBA player that you're seeing 82 times a year, a football player that has 16 weeks. I think they appreciate it. They're always gracious. And I can honestly say, man, I don't think I've had any bad experience with fighters. Some of the people around them I've had a few little weird moments with, but fighters are awesome for the most part, man. So good luck out there. I'm sure you'll get a ton of networking done.
Well, on a personal note, when was the first time that your first interaction you had where you said, and someone came to you who you looked at and seen him on and said, hey, Percy, what was your first one where you're like, oh shit, he knows me?
Andre Ward.
Okay.
Nope. I'm sorry. I'm lying. Tim Bradley.
Oh, no shit.
They had a fight and I forgot what the fight was. And I walk up to him and I'm like, what's up, Tim? I'm Percy. And he's like, man, I know who you are. So that was my
Good.
first moment. And then I had the same kind of interaction with Andre Ward, where he actually walked over to me, and I had met him the day before and we were talking, but I'm like, dude, this dude probably talked to 1,000 people.
Right.
So I'm like, hey, I saw you yesterday on Percy. He was like, man, that's why I came and talked to you. Like, I know exactly who you are. So that was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to be recognized by them. And, the love is usually reciprocated, man. I'm not trying to cover guys and nail them to the cross. Just like, they're not trying to give me a hard time as a journalist. Whatever access I need to them, they've given it to me, and vice versa.
And then see, that's why I got a guy like you on here. And as always, Percy Crawford, Zenger News, always good to have you on. Even on short notice. I mean, you got on real quickly to talk about the fights, and it's a pleasure and honor to talk to you. I mean, I've been following you for years, and to actually call you my friend and have you come on when I ask, I appreciate that.
Hey man, the honor is mine. Right quick, I got a really good fast story that's amazing fighter in action. So I'm hanging out with my man Corey Spinks in the MGM. I think it was Pacquiao Mayweather weekend. And this woman, they had a few people taking pictures with him. So she was like, you must be a fighter. And he was like, yeah, this, that, and the other. So he showed, I think he had on his Hall of Fame ring or whatever. He shows his Missouri Hall of Fame. Long story short, somehow she was like, wait, what's your name? Her husband was over in a wheelchair. Corey's dad, Leon Spinks, and her husband fought in the war together.
No kidding.
And that weekend we linked them two up, and it was amazing, man. So that's one of my better fighter in action stories where she was like, wait, Spinks, my husband know, and she went and talked to her husband. This is Corey Spinks, this is Leon's son. How's Leon doing? He's here. And it was amazing. So I just had to share that because those are the things, man, that makes this worth every second.
Such a small little community too. Like everybody knows everybody through somebody, and it's really, and you could find out, hey, so how's this guy or how's this guy? I mean, I would have never met some of these guys if it wasn't for just a few people, and it just expands even through the amateurs. It's like this weave that just goes around. I know him.
Yes, absolutely. And I think they were just there gambling. Like they wasn't even there for the fight. And so just for it to happen that way, man, it was an amazing thing to experience.
There's a lot of good stories in boxing. I mean, there's a ton of bad ones, but the good stories I think could outweigh the bad ones. It's just the people in charge sometimes that you can't control. They're the ones up there that make the decisions, and you stay away from them. You're good.
Absolutely.
But,
always a pleasure, brother.
How can we get a hold of you, Percy? If you give away your social media and how they get a hold of your articles and what have you.
So social media, Facebook is Percy Crawford, Twitter and X. I got to get used to calling it X. And Instagram is, you can find it under Percy Crawford, but it's Mr. Louisiana with the I in Louisiana being a 1.
Very good. Percy Crawford, as always, it's a pleasure to have you on. And we look forward to the whole summer. I mean, you'll be busy, but we'll be getting together.
Oh, we'll be getting some episodes in, man. We got a lot of good boxing coming up, brother.
And I'd like to come down there. To Louisiana, maybe just pop over to a fight or so.
Whenever you do, make sure it's past hurricane season because it's gonna be a busy one.
I drive. I don't fly. That's for sure.
Drive?
I would drive. I mean, I only flew out to Vegas a few times, but I don't like flying. If I could drive there, I would. If I could get the time off, I would drive to Vegas. But I tend to not. I went on Spirit airplane one time, and then Frontier. It was just like my wife decided to go to like the dollar store of planes and booked a plane with those. We flew out United Airlines and American, and I thought it was great. Coming back, the 2 times was Spirit and Frontier, and it was probably the worst experience I ever had. And I'm like, I'll never fly again. Or if I do fly, I'll have to book the tickets. Because I'm not going to just do dollar.
You got to book up with some of them trips, man, because driving from Jersey to Louisiana, man, you must love to drive. I personally hate driving, so I envy people like you.
Well, I just like to see the way people live. I think that's cool. I think like out here is very country where we are. I like to see how people live. I mean, I used to live in a city, so I'm kind of like, that's a hustle and bustle. But going out to like, even out west, I like to see what people do in Arizona, do in Colorado, because there's so many different cultures and so many. I like to see that different animals. Say, hey, what you guys have buffalo out here? You guys have this? That's what I like to see as I'm going through. I just don't want to fly through. So if I can get time
come
off.
down here, you're gonna see every type of bug you can imagine. So get ready.
Oh, well, I didn't say bug. I said animal. You could keep those.
We're gonna give you the other side.
Yeah, I'll see the other side. As always, Percy, Zanger News. Great to talk to you, buddy.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for watching the Zapata Brand Podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast and listen where all podcasts are available.